All right, 2023 first round draft retrospective. I'm going to go through every pick of the 2023 draft and just give my thoughts on where these players are currently at. We only have 31 picks, which we'll get into as to why it's only 31 and not 32. But yeah, let's just talk about it. We'll start at the top and work our way down. First, Bryce Young, which was a controversial. It wasn't really a controversial pick at the time. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud were pretty much 1A, 1B. They decided to go with Bryce Young, and it was a pick that looked really bad after year one. No denying it. Bryce Young did not play well at all. CJ Stroud was awesome in year one. Stroud in year two, I don't know if I would say he's fully taken a step back, but he's kind of just been the same guy again, and we kind of thought he was going to continue to grow and get better. Keep in mind, he got MVP votes year one. Like, that's how good he was, and well, I'm not sure I would put him as a top 5 player year one. There were people who get MVP votes who did, so that's pretty crazy. Now, Bryce Young had I thought, really good second half of the year once he got benched. Now, again, it's only one stretch, right? And how much do you want to buy into it? I'm kind of buying in, though. I think Bryce Young's going to be good, and I still think CJ Stroud's going to be good. They also added Will Anderson Jr. Remember, they traded up with the Cardinals, and everyone at the time said, why are you trading your next first round pick? That could be a nice pick. Turned out it wasn't that great of a pick, and they got Will Anderson Jr., who's been a great player. So they kind of won that trade, I think, even though you didn't feel like it was going to happen at the time because of how much they gave up, but he's been a great player. Anthony Richardson is someone who hasn't really hit with the Colts. Seems like they're going to kind of give him 1 year with a short leash, but so far this could end up being a bust if it doesn't turn around soon. But they kind of knew it was a high risk, high reward type move. And then the Seahawks, Devin Witherspoon continued to be really great. He's been a very good corner now. So yeah, they got a top 10, 15 corner pick number 5. You'll take that. Next 5, we actually have some really good players, and then also the Raiders pick here, because you have the Arizona Cardinals who got Paris Johnson Jr., who after year one, you're kind of wondering, okay, is this just not going to work out? Like, I don't think it was horrible year one, but it's sort of like, okay, this is not what you usually expect from a number 6 overall pick, but it's 1 year, let's see how he does. And well, it was only in about 800 snaps last year. He was great last year. He played really well. I think the Cardinals feel great about that. Maybe him and Kyler just have chemistry or something. But yeah, that worked out really well. What did not work out was pick number 7. You have Tyree Wilson, who I will say played better this year. Played a lot better. And I would not say has been a bad player. Again, if they could trade him for a number 7 overall pick at this point, they would do it. But he has been effective. I think you would still like more in the pass rush, but he has been a very good run defender so far. So again, only about 500 snaps, but you'll take that. Bijan Robinson has been really good. I mean, again, there's the whole should you draft a running back with pick number 8 or not, and that's a discussion that we can have and we have had on this channel. But if you're going to draft a running back at pick 8, definitely not a bad running back to draft. Jalen Carter, who, again, the Eagles said, you know what, we'll take a chance on this star player. He's been a star player. It's worked out, 10 out of 10, no notes. And even the Bears, who got a lot of criticism for not drafting Jalen Carter and for instead, trading back a pick, not wanting to take that chance. A lot of people have wondered, would Jalen Carter be Jalen Carter in Chicago? Darnell Wright's been a really good tackle for them, though. Like, their tackles are okay, and, there's a reason why every move they made this offseason was just to add the interior, because they like their tackles, and they especially like Darnell Wright. Next 5 here. First, Peter Skoronski, who was a tackle, but most people thought that he was going to be a guard when he played in the NFL. And I think the question with him was, is it worth spending a pick this high on a guard? But he should be a great guard. The Titans elect to do it. They try him at tackle, say, okay, that's not really working, let's put him at guard. And he's kind of just been okay, which has been kind of underwhelming because I think that usually teams that draft that way end up coming out looking pretty good, getting a really star player just because it's not like the most premium position. But ultimately in this case hasn't fully worked out. The Lions went for the, hey, let's get a star player even if it's not at a premium position, and they feel very happy about their Jahmyr Gibbs pick. Now, some people have criticized, like, why don't we see Gibbs more on the field? Well, I mean, A, he's a speed guy. You don't want to have him tired and slow him down a bit. And B, he's a horrible pass blocker. Like, that's just not his thing, right? He doesn't pick up blitz as well. But who cares? Because he's such an electric runner that they use him so well. He has obviously the great offensive line behind him. And if you have that, why not build on your strengths? That's kind of what they did. And yeah, as critical as that people were of that pick, as critical as I was of that pick, and whether that's the decision you would make, the decision has worked out for them. It's accomplished what they were trying to do. The Green Bay Packers drafted Lucas Van Ness. Not a great pick here. I mean, we're going to see a run of maybe not the best talent after the Gibbs pick, and so it kind of makes the Gibbs pick look better with that. But for Van Ness, I mean, again, his highlights look very good. I didn't really get him at the time when he was drafted. I still don't really get him now. He's got the physical tools, but just doesn't win consistently. Broderick Jones is kind of another guy where Steelers fans seemingly really like him, and I don't think he's a bad player, but I certainly don't think he's a great player. I'm not looking at him as like, oh, he's a guy who, is a star player. And again, I think if they could trade him for the 14th overall pick, even taking contracts out of the equation, I don't think that they take that deal. So yeah, again, not a bad player, but maybe not someone that has been fantastic so far. At number 15, I find Will McDonald incredibly fascinating. So Will McDonald is a player who, for the Jets, is someone who has 10.5 sacks. Okay, that's great. Pick 15, fantastic. You look at certain underlying metrics, his pass rush win rate's solid, but it's not 10.5 sacks good usually, and his run defense metrics are quite frankly horrible. So he is someone who probably should just be used as a pass rush specialist at this point in his career, and kind of isn't used that way, which maybe makes him look a little worse. I will say as well, I did kind of a deep dive on him, and a lot of his sacks are kind of cleanup sacks or being in the right spot at the right time, more so than just beating a tackle cleanly. But he can do that. He has been capable, and I would say for pick 15, given kind of the graveyard that we do see, with some of these picks are pretty solid. I don't think you're too mad at it if you're a Jets fan, although maybe there were better players after. Next 5, we have our first player who is no longer currently on the team that drafted him, and we're just 2 years removed now. Emmanuel Forbes is someone who, that's just a horrible miss, right? Especially when, listen, Christian Gonzalez was considered the better prospect coming into the draft. Christian Gonzalez goes one pick later and is a star with the Patriots. Emmanuel Forbes is off the team with the Commanders. It's not like they had a loaded corner room. Just a bad result there. Was a decision that they thought would work at the time and just hasn't. Christian Gonzalez has been great though for the Patriots. They feel great about that pick. So definitely they're thrilled about that one. The Detroit Lions. So Jack Campbell's very fascinating. He's a player who at the time was considered to be this I thought a really good prospect. And again, they got a lot of criticism for this draft. Usually I think a lot of people now say this is actually a great draft, largely due to how the rest of the rounds went, but also because of Gibbs. And I have to say, Jack Campbell had over 1,000 snaps last year, so hey, stayed healthy. That's impressive, and was one of their most consistent players. For whatever reason, Alex Anzalone kind of got all the credit, and he deserved credit. But Jack Campbell played really well last year as well. He was PFF's 10th highest graded linebacker. So the Lions, both their controversial picks worked out, and I remember at the time not really getting why people were so concerned about the Jack Campbell pick. The Gibbs one, of course, I understand. And I was one of those people for the Campbell pick. I always liked that one. Didn't look great year one, but he's found something there. Glad Kancey for Tampa Bay. Again, still a really good pass rusher, and when he wins, it looks awesome. You want some more consistency, especially in the run defense game for him. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba for the Seahawks. I mean, it feels like every year there's a couple of these like slot receiver type players that, kind of the way people view them is, okay, this is the guy who could be really good, but also he's playing a slot, and is he going to ever be a star? And I think a lot of times those players actually just don't work out. It's like a Kadarius Toney type, right? Although he had some other issues as well. But for Smith-Njigba, he's been a slam dunk out of that archetype, and he has one on the outside at times as well. So yeah, they feel great about him. Next 6 here, so there's 32 picks, so I'm going to put 6 here, although technically one of them isn't a pick. The Dolphins, if you remember, did not get the pick 21st because it was the Tom Brady tampering thing. If you remember, they tampered with Tom Brady, lost their first round pick, had nothing to do with the Brian Flores. Well, had a little to do with the Brian Flores thing, because Brian Flores filed a lawsuit. In that lawsuit, it stated that the Dolphins tampered. The Dolphins lose their first round pick, which opened up the door for the Chargers to draft Quentin Johnston. Hey, Dolphins, maybe it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, listen, Johnston has shown to be an effective player for the Chargers last year, and you're happy about that. The drop issues is just such a concern, and I don't know what you do with that. He is great at finding ways to get open against his own coverage, but ultimately, if you're not going to catch the ball, what does it matter? Still an effective player, but, Zay Flowers, who has picked one spot behind him, has just been a better player. And Jordan Addison, who has picked one spot behind him, has been a better player, although I would say Flowers has kind of been best out of those. Best out of those three. I would probably, him and Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think you could take your pick as to who you would rather have one in there. So, yeah, there's that. At pick 24, you have Deonte Banks, the corner for the Giants, who, we'll see, right, with him. Like, I still think he does show some flashes. He just hasn't, to me, been very great and very consistent. Now, been in a bad situation with the Giants. Maybe you put him in a better situation. I do think they're still going to try him, throw him out there for a third year. But, yeah, I'm not too pumped up if I'm a Giants fan with that one. And then, finally, on this section, Dalton Kincaid, a guy who, unfortunately, is currently best known for dropping a pass in the AFC Championship game that could have helped win them the game, but at the same time, been a very effective player for them, does consistently get open, is a really good tight end, and a guy who I think that they're very happy with, even if, unfortunately, it was a tough catch. He had to adjust to the ball. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but he got his hands on it and couldn't grab it, and that's going to sting for a while. And then final 6 here, we have essentially 5 picks that haven't really worked out, and then the guy that the Eagles drafted it, basically. So let's get into it. Mazi Smith, the defensive lineman, all trenches here, all either offensive or defensive linemen. 5 out of these 6 guys are defensive linemen. Mazi Smith, one of them, who... It was a controversial pick at the time. I was kind of sitting there saying, oh, you fools, you don't realize Mazi Smith's going to be great for the Cowboys. Has not worked out that way. In fact, he's quite frankly been kind of poor for them. Anton Harrison hasn't been horrible for the Jaguars. He's an effective enough tackle. So for pick 27, it's not the worst move in the world. Has not been like a great tackle for them either, though. Miles Murphy, again, that's a pick that just has been a misfire for the Bengals. They thought they were getting more out of him. They decided not to do that. So, yeah. That's certainly been a miss. Next up, Brian Bresee, who, again, a player I thought was going to be really good for the Saints, really has not worked out yet for them. Nolan Smith at pick 30, I would say definitely has worked out for the Philadelphia Eagles. He didn't work out right away, but last year he really shown to be a really good pass rusher who can also hold his own and run defense, but is definitely a pass rusher who, again, in that system, I think he could be a guy who isn't going to fully replace Josh Sweat, but maybe gets a little bit more playing time now that Sweat's gone. I think he could do okay there. So, yeah, definitely, think he's been an effective player. It's weird seeing the last 2 teams also be the last 2 teams in this upcoming draft. That's kind of funny. But yes, the Kansas City Chiefs as well with Felix Nduke-Uzomah, who, again, in 350 snaps last year looked okay, but you don't usually draft a guy in the first round 2 years from now only be looking okay in 350 snaps. So, again, they got an effective player. Some of these aren't like horrible picks in terms of at least you're getting a contributor, but not what they were hoping for, I think. So, yeah, that is the retrospective of the first round of 2023. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.